Today we will be doing an oil change on a 2020 Yamaha R6 using the factory racing oil change kit. The tools that we will be using will be a drain pan along with some rags. We have a 4 and 6 millimeter Allen wrench to get off our fairing, and then we have a 17 millimeter socket for a drain bolt, an oil filter socket, and a ratchet. The kit will come with 3 quarts of the 10W40 fully synthetic oil, a new factory racing oil filter, and a new drain bolt washer. The first step will be to get our fairing off on the other side, and then we'll get our drain bolt out. And in order to take off the lower fairing, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 4 millimeter Allen bolts. Okay, we're going to use our 17 millimeter socket now to get our drain bolt loose. And as we pull out our drain bolt, we want to make sure that we get our drain bolt washer as well. It's always a good idea to do this with a warm engine, that way you get the most sludge out of there. Alright, we'll let that drain. While our oil finishes draining, I'm going to show you how to get to this oil filter. So, we've already removed 5 of our 4 millimeter Allens to get the lower fairing off. There is another 4 millimeter Allen right here that, although it doesn't hold on the lower fairing, it's going to make it easier to get to our oil filter. Remove the 6 millimeter Allen, and then you're going to swing the shifter all the way up and just tuck that behind the foot peg. Now we have a much clearer shot at our oil filter. Should also point out that there's a couple hoses that run right along the side of this oil filter that it's a little easier if we get those out of the way. Should also point out this is a messy job changing this oil filter, so it is a good idea to have some brake clean or carb clean on hand. We can go ahead and replace our drain bolt now. I do have a new washer on there. I always like to point out that when tightening the drain bolt washer, or the drain bolt rather, just go until you start to feel that washer collapse. It actually does 2 things. It does seal the drain bolt, but it also helps act as a torque cushion to keep you from over torquing that bolt. So as soon as you start to feel that washer collapse, that's a good stopping point. Okay, I have our new factory racing oil filter, which I've filled up with oil and lubricated this top ring. So we're going to go ahead and install that now. Now, usually I like to tighten oil filters by hand and just by hand, but in this case you can't really get a good grip on it, so we are going to use the oil filter socket. But we were going to do or you just use a little bit of pressure, only turning at about just a quarter turn, just so it's snug. All right, the next step will be to install our fairing, and then we'll go on the other side and we'll put oil in. Okay, so the specification for this bike with a filter change is approximately 2.8 quarts, which I've added just shy of 2.8 quarts. So, and the proper way to check the oil on this bike is by just setting in the dipstick, not screwing it in. So I have yet to start the bike, so we're just going to get a ballpark. And we can see here that the bike is just past the hash marks on the dipstick, which is okay, because we're going to start it now, and I expect that that oil filter is going to soak up a lot of that oil. So okay, so I've given the bike a few minutes to settle down after running it. So we're going to go ahead and get our final oil check here. Remember, we just set in the dipstick. Okay, so it's a little hard to see, but our oil line is just below the top of the hash marks there. So I'm going to add the last bit of oil I have in my container here, and that'll be it. So there you have it, an oil change using the factory racing oil change kit on a 2020 Yamaha R6, and these instructions will apply all the way back to the 2006 model year, although the fairings are slightly different once you get back to those years.